Now, Sports Talk with Brodes. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Brodes. Matt Moore is a disgrace. What a terrible performance once again. And there is clearly an issue with him, whether he wants to use that grimace whenever he was taking that at bat and his face showed that there was discomfort, whether he wants to use that as an excuse or not. There is a problem outside of whatever occurred in that situation, and he's flat out not good enough. He was getting murdered. The fact that the first inning played out the way that it did, where he walks a few batters, he gets lucky by getting out of that inning. He barely threw any strikes. It was inevitable. It was written on the wall. And same could be said about what happened to the Phillies offensively. You get bases juiced. You get this opportunity to crush them and hurt their soul by putting up a bunch of runs on the board, and you come away with one. You force Kim to throw all of these pitches and get a high pitch count, and you only come out with one run. You have to make them pay. You have to destroy them. You just waxed their assholes just literally less than 24 hours ago by putting up 9 runs. And somehow, some way, you can do so much lethal damage in the first inning against a guy like Kim, and you only come up with one run. That can't happen. That is so unacceptable. And I knew as soon as that happened that was going to come back and crush the Phillies. And what do you know? After that, they can't find any ways to produce when they leave so many guys on base. They left 11 men on 11. Not only that, they struck out 13 times. Are you kidding me? Just think what scoring multiple runs could have done in that first inning. Now, the alternative is, or we should just say, now, Matt Moore would still probably give up some runs and would still allow Yadier Molina to crush one and allow back-to-back bombs. DeYoung crush one to center field. So who knows if that wouldn't necessarily change the outcome of the game. But I do know it changes the mentality. You just abused this same exact St. Louis Cardinals team yesterday. So think about the mental effects. And Matt Moore is garbage. His stat line is 2 2/3, 4 hits, 5 earned runs, 5 walks in 66 pitches. 66 pitches in 2 1/3. That damage that occurred in the third inning, 2 outs. You just needed one more out to get out of the inning. 2 outs. And when Kim's up to bat, you're throwing it over his head. That's worse than Jose Alvarado going an inch away from Michael Conforto's face with the 100-mile-per-hour fastball. He's throwing it all over. What are you doing? Now, there wasn't help defensively. You see so many problems with this team when it comes to the fundamentals, right? Alec Boehm trying to throw the ball over to Rhys Hoskins, and Rhys Hoskins, one, it was a bad throw by Alec Boehm. Let's try and reach first base. It's almost as if when you're younger and you make that jump from the little league field to the bigger league field and you're a catcher and you struggle to throw the baseball down to second base and it's always on a short hop and your shortstop gets pissed at you or the second baseman gets pissed at you because you can never reach. Alec Boehm can never reach. With that being said, this is when JoJo Romero was actually, and they pulled Matt Moore after the abysmal pitch over the head. JoJo Romero was in, and he stunk too. Joe Girardi, after the game, mentioned that there's got to be something going on with the velocity. Maybe it's a dead arm problem. They realized this in the past, so it's on their radar. We were screaming that they needed another lefty in the pen to start the season, thinking JoJo Romero would be able to have some sort of spark, but it's obvious that he's just getting shelled every time he's on the mound as well. Yadier Molina again. Nolan Arenado with a moonshot as well. Back to back. What is going on? But anyway, JoJo Romero in the game there, filling in for Matt Moore. Alec Boehm has to be able to make that play. Rhys Hoskins, that is a simple pick, a simple scoop, a simple hop that every first baseman in this league should be able to make. To be fair, he made 2 stellar plays defensively prior. but he made the tougher ones, and the simple, basic baseball 101 first baseman pick is the one that he missed. Dude, come on. And even that special play that he did make where he picked the ball and he was falling over, it was almost as if his body was collapsing to the left as he, if you watch the replay, his head wasn't even paying attention. I really look at it as luck that Rhys Hoskins, it was as if he just closed his eyes and said, oh, I hope I make this play. And he made it. And it was a nice special play. It was a good defensive play. But if you do that 10 times, I think he makes that play once. It's not a recipe for success. It's not something that will keep you having sustained success in the first baseman department. He was just, just doing something to try and make the play. It luckily found his glove, but I don't think if you do that majority of the time, you're going to generate enough success out of Rhys Hoskins. It's crazy that he is so poor. He is your perfect DH. And here I am ripping him defensively after making 2 plays and missing 1. But that second play, that scoop play, that was awesome that he made. I just don't see him applying something that makes sense to actually make that pick play make me feel good about it. He did have a good day at the plate, though. And he did get screwed in the 6th inning after a couple of walks where check swing, I don't think he went, but they said that he struck out, and there you go. There's the chance to maybe make some runs go on board and try and chip into the lead just a little bit. He did have some nice hits, though. He did have 3 hits, and he wasn't batting second. How dare I bury the lead? Gene Segura bats second because Bryce Harper has an injury. He woke up with some back stiffness, precautionary. Here's what I know, though. This Bryce Harper back problem has been a problem. It's been an issue. It has held him out in the back end of a season. It's been a problem, and it's limited him in the past. He's got such a vicious swing. His swing is so deep and so intense and so powerful. The twerk in his body, it's clearly starting to pile up, and it's becoming a reason why this is the case. Now, how many times have I stressed that Bryce Harper is a pro's pro? You would like to imagine that he's aware of this, he's conscious of this, and there's got to be some sort of tweaking involved when you sign this man for 13 years. I'm not necessarily talking about this season and Bryce Harper right now, even though it's not a good sign to see this, and you got to pull him out of the lineup. As precautionary as it is, 14 games into the season, the fact that we're even having this discussion is a problem to me. So it is reasonable to bring up, hold on a second, what do we have here right now? Only 14 games in, but when I look at that big picture contract, that 13 years, $330 million, he's in his later 20s right now. What are we talking about at 32, 33, 34? With that back, with this stiffness in the back, you would have to think that he is going over the tape. He is studying the craft. He's thinking about maybe making some adjustments so that twerk isn't as intense. But at the same time, that's who he is. That's what's got him here. That's what his swing has been throughout his entire career. How are you going to be this deep into your tenure and all of a sudden just stop being that crazily heavy with the way that you utilize your back with your swing? That is Bryce Harper. That's what he's been. But there is a correlation here between how powerful he twerks his body, how long he's been doing it for, where he is in his career, why he hasn't played in certain areas of his career to this point in Philadelphia and being limited in the field in other areas and all. Like, hey, it's been a problem. Whether it's spring training, I'm bringing up maybe being limited in spring training. There is a factor here of the swing, and it's something that we are going to have to monitor at this point. This can get scary. This can get dicey. It's not there yet, but this has the potential to be the reason in 3 years that we are having maybe a more sadder, let's just say like a sadder conversation about where Bryce Harper is. You just hope that this doesn't become a problem where back injuries are no joke, and back injuries linger, and it's something that can constantly cause you discomfort, and you can never fully get out of it. And what happens if this is a bigger problem here where we're talking about severe back pain, severe back problems as Bryce Harper's tenure continues here in Philadelphia. I hate to be that negative. I hate to look at it so harshly, but to pretend as if you can't look at it with that type of eyes and you can't look at it with that mindset, well, that's wrong. This is something that is part of the equation here when it comes to injuries and when it comes to athletes that start to fall downhill or whatever. I don't want to see this happen, but it's hard for me to not look in that direction and at least have that on the table. As a side topic too, where does this take Bryce Harper this season? Where does this take Bryce Harper long term? It sucks. It definitely sucks. So Jean Segura, as I mentioned, was in that 2 spot, and that's been somewhat of a debate this season so far. He's been playing so high. He's batting .333. My man Jean Segura has been definitely eye-popping this season. I actually just got back I hosted on 97.5 The Fanatic today from 7 to 10 p.m. So I was talking about the Phillies, and I hit on a bunch of different topics, but when the Phillies came up, we were talking about the negatives of this team, and it's obviously Matt Moore and Roman Quinn, who still hasn't gotten a hit in quite some time. And by the way, the Phillies have lost 6 of their last 8. April 4th was the last time that this team had got a hit from their center fielder, which was 11 straight games, which is such an embarrassment. It is April 17th, and they have yet to get a hit. He's batting around .042. It's either .043, .042. It doesn't matter about that extra point that we're speaking of. He stinks. He sucks. So those 2 were the negatives. The positive, though, was Zach Eflin and Jean Segura. Jean Segura, his hustle is very noticeable. His work ethic is extreme. His production is amazing. Jean Segura has provided a bit of a spark for you, and he has been awesome. I liked him in the 2 spot. I liked Rhys Hoskins in the 3 hole. It's obviously hard to be disappointed in that for what you saw today. I wonder if that changes anything. The problem is where Bryce Harper is going to be. You're going to have him batting 3rd. So what does that mean for Rhys Hoskins? What does that mean for Jean Segura? But maybe they see a spot where you can keep Jean Segura in the 2 spot. You can have Rhys Hoskins maybe batting 4 and then move back JT Realmuto to 5, move back Alec Boehm to 6. But then you have Didi Gregorius batting 7th, who had some really nice contact today in the 9th inning when bases were loaded. Even though the game was essentially over, it was a 9-4 game, so there was only so much damage it could have done. But he roped one to right field. He roped another one previously, so he definitely made some solid contact. Rhys made some solid contact. I thought he had a home run, but it looked like it was a double off that top part of the wall, but he saw the ball very well. Unfortunately, though, you dug yourself in such a hole, 6-1. How are you going to battle back? You had a chance to make an explosive start happen. You didn't do it. You only scored 1 run. That was extremely brutal. Your starting pitching was terrible. And when you're down 6-1, you do. I'll give them credit. Whenever a team does, and I give them credit, but I despise at the same time, whenever this team does go down, they just make enough of a statement. I've said that maybe 4 or 5 games recently, too, of their 14. They're 7-7. They're 500 again. When a team does attack, and when a team does get some runs, they just get the team back in. So they get a couple on board. What ends up happening in that bottom third? Segura singles, Rhys doubles. That's what I was talking about with Rhys Hoskins' swing. JT and Alec Boehm, they get you some sack flies. They get you your RBI. They get you across the board some way, somehow. So now it's 6-3. Manageable. Hey, it's manageable. They kept you alive into thinking you have this in your grasp as long as you can execute with your men in scoring position and you stop striking out so much. Wasn't the case, though, because Jojo Romero comes in and he gets shelled. I had to watch Vince Velasquez come in and load up the bases. How funny is this? Vince Velasquez, who I'm just so sick and tired of. I can't stand looking at his face. He goes 2 1/3, 63 pitches. You load up the bases, though. This is where the humor comes in. David Hale is the one that saves the day. Well, you got to give credit a little bit to JT Realmuto, where you throw the ball to home, and then JT goes from home to first base. But what do you know? David Hale, if you're going to write it up in just the most hysterical way possible, it's Vince Velasquez loads the bases, and then it's David Hale gets you out of the jam. It's just absolutely hysterical. This team can never properly do everything right, though, just from like a fundamental standpoint. I mentioned Alec Bowman-Reese. There's also from left field to Didi. This was to get them one of their runs, to get the Cardinals one of their runs. Just the standard transition, the relay, a simple relay. Left field to the cutoff man to throwing home. There's a bobble. There's an adjustment that needs to be made in the middle of the relay. It throws everybody out for a loop. And there you go. The Cardinals are scoring an easier run, which could have had a play to the plate. There could have actually been maybe a really tough play for the Cardinals, and maybe JT Realmuto applies a nice tag where properly blocking the plate at a good rate, where in today's era of baseball, they don't call it because it's JT and he does it in a professional way. But instead, there's a bobble and the exchange wasn't clean. This team doesn't do the simple things right. And when you can't do the simple things right, you're going to have a very tough day at the office, and you're going to have a very long 162. I do ask this question, though. If they win with Aaron Nola on the mound on Sunday afternoon, do you look at it as you won the series and you responded to a tough series loss to the Braves, a brutal series in Citi Field, and you came home and responded with a win against the Cardinals? Or do you look at it more with a dissection, with a heavy eye of, look what happened? Sure, they might have won, but look at how many problems this team has. So there's so many layers to this. You can be disappointed knowing that their 4 is trash and their center field is probably the worst situation possible, and it's significantly worse than you could have ever imagined, and we knew it was going to be a dumpster fire. So where the fix is going to happen, or with it being so miserable, you found a way to win a series, and you found a way to be 8-7 after 15, and there is help along the way with Dave Dombrowski. As long as you can keep yourself engaged and just like, hey, you're winning a series, and hey, you're just finding a way to win a series, knowing that there's gotta be change, knowing that there has to be some sort of difference coming along here by Dave Dombrowski, whether it's making a trade or giving Mickey Moniak the full attempt, even though I'm not real big on it, all right? It's not as if Mickey Moniak blew me away today when he got into the game. He had 2 strikeouts, and I was a little harsh on him after his first game against the Cardinals, and maybe he would have had a hit that could have been a home run on any other night and worked the count. I know that maybe there was a little bit more professionalism than Roman Quinn, but I'm not comparing him to Roman Quinn. The fact that we are saying, well, at least he's better than a guy who's better than, a player who's .043. Well, please, I'm better than that. You're better than that. My mother is better than that. Everyone's better than that. Everyone is. It's a joke. So the thing is, I think that there's a better fix, and not even a great fix, a better fix at the pitching department in that 4 spot, more so than there is at center field right now. Center field is out of the organization. The pitching might be in the organization. It might be Spencer Howard. I've said this about Spencer Howard. There's going to be growing pains, and I'm not saying it's perfect, but we were sold that he's a top end of the rotation guy. I don't think he is. I think his ceiling is more of that 4, maybe 3 at best. 3 at best. Ceiling's 3. Let's say 3. That's a little unfair. I think his ceiling could be a 3. I think he might be a perfect 4. The problem is he's not there yet. He's still a work in progress to even get to the level where I feel comfortable with him at 4. But you can at least try that over Matt Moore. But Joe Girardi said after the game that Matt Moore is going to make his next start. And I wonder if that's solely because of he's a lefty. And when you're a lefty, you're going to get every chance in the world to become a starter because it's a different element that this team just doesn't have. But I think it's pretty clear that there's something missing from him, and Japan statistics are not the same as the MLB statistics, and he just doesn't have it. The command is brutal. He's walking guys. That first inning, the fact that the Cardinals did not score any runs is really pathetic on their part with how many balls he threw and getting 2 guys on early, walking. I mean, it's just terrible. And then he responds with that 3rd inning where it was so awful to my eyes. 2 outs. Getting smoked by Yadier Molina. This guy looked like he was 25 years old again. Not 64, not 76. And he crushed two bombs, crushed them at a Citizens Bank Park. You got to be smoother than that. You just do. Pitching, you got to be. DeYoung, Nolan Arenado. Hopefully, they got all their hits out in this one. And they go quiet. This Cardinals lineup goes quiet. Hopefully, that's what you get. You get Aaron Nola. Let's see if Aaron Nola can get back on track and dice up these guys. It's got to be smoother than this. It does. In every single layer to this team. Defense, the simple stuff, basic baseball, the pitching, the hitting, the striking out has happened to an extreme. You got to clean up the strikeouts. You got to do better. Smoother. That's the key word. Be smoother. And speaking of smooth, DraftKings Sportsbook is absolutely that. There are so many odds boosts and promotions available on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. You have to download it right now and use promo code Brodes when you sign up. Whether we're talking about baseball, you can go to the player props, Aaron Nola's strikeouts, the over-unders, the over-under in the total runs. How about just the money line involved? You got professional basketball, the NBA, the 76ers, Joel Embiid, professional hockey with the NHL, UFC. There's something big really popping up in the UFC world next weekend, so there's so much action for you to get in on. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Use promo code Brodes. That's promo code Brodes. And some of these odds and promotions, they're only for a limited time. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. In partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, let's go to the Anytime Hotline. By the way, Matt Joyce played in right field. Woof. 0 for 3 and had 2 Ks swinging. Looked a little overwhelmed. Yeah. Remember when he was hitting bombs in spring training? I don't think I see that. Oh, unfortunately, I don't think I see that right now.
Matt Moore stinks. I'm out on him. Left a lot of runners in scoring position. And Joe Girardi also gave up a big home run. Also, geez, just please let Bryce Harper be okay.
I think Bryce Harper in the short term is going to be okay. I don't think he's going to miss an insane amount of time. Hell, I'd be shocked if he missed Sunday's game, but at the same time, I wouldn't be insanely shocked, but I would be a little shocked. Not insanely, just a little. Short term, I think Bryce Harper will be fine, unless this is a disaster and something's happening behind the scenes that we are unaware of, but I don't think that's the case. I'm more worried about it more long term than I am the short term. Matt Moore, I said that I'd give everybody 5 starts before I really make that assessment, but I think you're seeing something out of Matt Moore. Sometimes you just know. There's somewhere you give them more. For example, Chase Anderson. He deserves more to really know. It's unfair to say I'm 100% out on your 5th starter in a player like Chase Anderson, where, first off, the expectation shouldn't be high. 5 innings, 6 innings at best for a 5 guy. Just keep you involved, keep you in the game. That's different. You haven't seen enough, and Aaron Nola's going to be going instead of Chase Anderson on Sunday, so it's just a different element with him. But Matt Moore, some players you just know if he has it or not. Alec Boehm, when you watched him play, he has it. Let's go to basketball. Tyrese Maxey, he has it. Some players have it. Connor Brogdon, he has it. When you watch Matt Moore, even though it's just a handful of starts, and I say I like to at least give everyone that reasonable chance to earn that respect from me and earn that chance, sometimes you watch players and they just don't have it. And Matt Moore, it's just not there. It really isn't, and I don't think anything's going to change, because even bad players have a nice performance. If you give me what Matt Moore has given me for 4 starts, and then his 5th start is okay, and his 5th start is 5 innings, and it's a reasonable hold-you-into-it type of performance like a Chase Anderson has given you, well, that doesn't make it justifiable. You can't have 4 pathetic starts and then 1 good one, or just 1 average one, let's say. Not even good, 1 average one. You got to give me average majority of the time, and that's when you solidify yourself in a 4 or 5 spot. So even if his next outing comes out where it's been 3 sucky ones and then 1 average, I still can't accept that. It's clear that Matt Moore isn't going to be enough. I think that's telling. So if you're Dave Dombrowski and you're making your early assessments through 14 baseball games, Matt Moore, no bueno. Center field, let's go. It's not Mickey Moniak. Let's make something serious happen by picking up the phones. All right? You got to start making some phone calls and seeing what's going on. I'm not saying teams are just desperate to make moves right now. They know how desperate the Phillies are. So I don't even know how much teams are going to be willing to make a move this early because you don't really know where you are. You don't want to give up a piece if you end up becoming a team that is more serious than maybe you anticipated. So it's so raw for teams to make those type of decisions. And they know where the Phillies are desperately. And how much do you really have to give up? Like, who wants who from the Phillies level? They don't have a bunch of prospects to go out there, right? Like center field should not be a platoon. Center field is a serious position that deserves an everyday guy. So these teams, how are they going to be that willing to say, hey, let's move on from that piece? It's just not reality. So that's also a layer to this as well. It hurts. I mean, it flat out hurts. All right, let's go to another call.
You knew the Phillies were in trouble in this one in the bottom of the first. You have the bases loaded and a 3-0 count with a pitcher who can't throw a strike to save his life, and he comes back to strike out Matt Joyce. But then again, you were in trouble when Matt Moore took the mound. I mean, it's becoming clearly obvious that this guy can't pitch anymore. You can't trick major league hitters, especially legitimate major league hitters. How many 2-strike counts does this guy get on a hitter? But because he can't throw hard enough anymore and he doesn't have a trick pitch, he can't put hitters away, and it becomes batting practice. That said, bringing in Vince Velasquez to replace him doesn't exactly make me feel any better going into the next series.
I agree completely. You bring in Vince Velasquez, and we're having that same conversation. It's just funny how I'm not tricked. I promise you I'm not tricked. I'm not even tricked by the Spencer Howard thing. I don't think that would be a full-on fix. But considering he's one of your prospects, and I think he will be a 4 type of player eventually, you're somewhat grooming him into that role. So I'm not even being tricked from a Spencer Howard. I don't think that's a fix. I just think that's your best option. There are some now, after seeing someone like Matt Moore, it's let's at least give Vince Velasquez another shot. And I can't believe that there are some actually getting sucked into, well, it can't be as bad as Matt Moore. Let's try Vince Velasquez. Do you seriously want to put yourself through that hell again? Within one game, after 2 innings, then the 3rd comes, then the 4th comes, then the second time around the rotation comes around 3rd. You're going through hell. It's the same problem. Nothing has changed out of this Vince Velasquez story. It is the same damn problem. You just witnessed it again today. And I mentioned how you have a better shot at fixing Matt Moore's problem by putting in a new piece that's in the organization compared to center field. That might be true, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I feel that great about it. That's how much of a dilemma you have in center field. I think that tells more the story of how insanely terrible it is internally for center field, more so than it feels about my positivity towards where you are at the pitching spot too, right? So that's kind of where I'm at there, and it's just damaging to my soul that we watch games like this, and it just has that feel of this is what concerns me. It's only 14 games in, but I feel that I thought it was going to be 87 wins and fun baseball, because there's a way to maybe I know this sounds crazy, and there are some out there that think it's championship or it's an unsuccessful season, and there's so much involved that it's not as like it's impossible to have a fun ride if you don't make the playoffs or if you don't win a championship. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. I thought that while the Phillies were not going to make the playoffs, they were going to give you a fun, intense ride where you would be involved, you'd be enjoying it every single night, and maybe there were some shortcomings and you fell short of the playoffs by maybe a game or two, but they gave you this enjoyable summer of baseball. It seems, and if this is the track record if the track record we've seen this point is what we're going to see for the rest of the season, and this is somewhat of the defining characteristics of this team, this isn't going to be a fun summer. That's where I have the problem. It's going to be miserable. It's going to be really hard to watch. It's going to be frustrating. It's going to be annoying. I thought it would at least be a fun summer, maybe a summer where you come up short, but you win 87 games, you're over 500, you set yourself up good for next year, you see some positives, you're just having fun every night watching the team, even if it wasn't necessarily a potential playoff season. And then 87 could still be, quote, potential playoff season worthy, but just coming up shy. This seems like more of a disaster than anything else. This seems more of a painful 76ers season where you have Josh Richardson and you have Al Horford. And maybe you won't have the same style of bullpen as last year, but last year wasn't fun, and it was a grind to get through. It seems like we're trending down the direction of a grind to get through, and that's what I can't have. That's what's unacceptable to me. So they better pull themselves out of this, and it's not impossible to. They just got to make changes, and it's early enough where you can make those changes and start to look in another direction instead of continuing to throw the same thing out there over and over again. There's telling signs where it's time, Dave. It's time. It's definitely time. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in and listening. We got one more game in this series, and we'll see if Aaron Nola can help out get this victory here and have this team win a series in Citizens Bank Park. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you next time.